Good evening and welcome to Lights on LA. I'm your host, Louise Gill. This evening with me, I have a special guest who is well known to the Armenian community, an activist. The show is going to be primarily in English due to the fact that I want everyone to be aware of the situations that are occurring right now in Artsakh. Azerbaijan unfortunately attacked Artsakh. We had many casualties, both civilian and military. My condolences to those family members, to the soldiers, and may God bless the soldiers, the Armenian soldiers, and may return home safely and sound, and may there be peace. With that said, Steve Hovagimian, how are you?
Fine, thank you. I'm just coming actually from a Requiem service dedicated to all fallen soldiers, also all civilians that died during this oppression.
Which affected, I believe, many civilians and
right.
military, as well as it occurred on April 1st.
Right.
Could you tell us a little bit about what has happened and why, for those that don't know?
Thank you for invitation, Luis. And remember, last week we were celebrating Easter, new life, resurrection, and this joy of hope sadly shaken because on the night of April 1st to April 2nd, the Azerbaijanis somehow tried to repay back something that I don't understand fully. But let's go back. If it is okay with you.
Of course.
Because many people, that even my colleagues and co-workers, I prepared all this today just to give them some brief explanation what's going on. Today, what we call it Lernain Gharapagh or Lernain Gharapaghi Hanrabedutun, which means actually the Republic of Nagorno-Karabakh. It's in Armenian, also called Artsakh. The whole region itself, it's a very small region. Mm-hmm. What we call it, like the size itself is 4,457 square miles, which is about 11,500 square kilometer. Population today, it's about 250. Language spoken is Armenian, and they have their own dialect, which goes back of hundreds of years. The ethnic composition that they have, it's about 95% are Armenians and 5% are, I would say, minorities. But including in minorities, there are Assyrians, there are Greeks, Jews, and Kurds. We have that. So Karabakh has been referred to under the variety of names. As I said, Artsakh in back in the history, it was Tzavdek, Khachen, or Gharabagh, which means the black forest, the dark forest, the black forest. Ghara is we go back, and I tried to do some research on that. Believe it or not, the first 500 millennia, where there was the iron and bronze ages, we do have inscriptions from them. So the first, I would say, quote unquote, Armenian presence there, it was an Assyrian inscription where it says that the king of Urartu, the Sardur II, discovered, this inscription was discovered in Zovk, proved that his troop, so Sardur II of Urartu, came all the way from Van to Artsakh and incorporated, and over at that time Artsakh was called Urtekhini. So
many names.
Exactly. So Urartu that we know, it's also called Ararat in the biblical sense. So in the first century, when the Armenian became the most powerful state in the Asia Fund, at that time, Dikran the Great, Dikran the Meds, what we call it in Armenian, he created Armenia from seas to sea. So sea saying the Caspian, the Black, and the Mediterranean. So I didn't know until yesterday that he actually came and he loved Artsakh, and he built another city of Dikranagert in Artsakh.
Wow.
We do have now today's Turkey, or eastern part of Turkey, what we call it Western Armenia. There we do have a Dikranagert, Diyarbakir in Kurdish. So he built another Dikranagert in Artsakh.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. I thought I know everything in Armenian history, but I didn't know that, believe it or not.
We learn something new every day.
Exactly. And then from 66 to 428, Artsakh was part of the, what we call it, Arshagunyats Harastutun, where in English we call it Artsakh Harastutun, so the dynasty. So after collapsing that, it took over by different countries, whereas the Persians were there. So it was taken by the Persians. But as we know, in the 5th century, when 4th century, when the Armenians became the first Christian nation, you know, there were other Christianity in Assyrian and Ethiopian and so on, but first Christian as an adopting as a nation, it was 301. The Armenians did that. So in the 4th and the 5th century, what we know, our Sahak Mesrok Mashtot founded the first Armenian school in Artsakh, monastery of Armash, or Amaras, what we call it. So I don't want to go in detail or this. There is.
We only have half an hour.
Exactly. That's why I'm looking on the thing is, when we go back, if I can summarize everything together, believe it or not, in 12th century, it was the renaissance of the Armenian architecture. And architects from Artsakh had somehow, and you're gonna be now surprised, with Michelangelo, that we don't have the Armenian letters, but we do have the Italian letters mentioning the Armenian letters sent to them. And to build the Armenian, each Armenian church have a dome. And this dome has no, what we call that, pole. Inside, pillar, right? Inside of the building. So it is actually so built that all the stones are all together catched and built this dome and the church. And this was in the 12th century. So the Italians are asking, how do you guys are doing? And they learned that concept, and they started building over there, and especially in Florence, they started to do the domes the same way that the Armenians do back home. And I mean, this was again something, and beautiful churches that we have there. The Hovannes Magardi Church, John the Baptist. Did you know that the head of John Baptist is in Artsakh?
No.
I didn't either. So obviously it is there, and it is buried under the altar of some. Then we have Kantsasar Monastery. I've seen, sadly, I've never been there in Artsakh, but Kantsasar Monastery is a symphony of small churches put together. I mean, chapels and so on, but in the middle, it's the whole cathedral. Beautifully done. Okay, so now let me just go ahead and, since we have only half hour, in the 16th and, the Mongols came along in 1230 to 1240, and Tatar Mongols came together in Transcaucasus. This is how the Mongol and then Turks were infiltrated in Transcaucasus. 16th to 17th century, Artsakh was the what we call it Melik or Melikutun, Khanutun. Khan is in Persia. Melik is also, it's not Armenian, what we call it principality. And Artsakh was divided in a few principalities. It was always, independent, but sadly, in 18th century, the Panakh, the leader of Turkic tribe, took advantage of this, feudal structure of the Khanate of Karabakh. So he started calling Artsakh Karabakh because Kara, dark or black, and Bakh is what we call it. Bakh is a field, but also trees in there, so we call it forest. So he started it, and the Persians backed him up. So since then, the Turkic. So when people say, "Oh, Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is an ancient," see, when you read the history of Azerbaijan, then you're gonna. They pretend that they are from the ancestors of Albanians.
Okay.
In Caucasus, there was a race called Albanians that today Albanians are from Europe now. The Albania is there. They migrated with different races to Europe, and they created the Albania today. We call it Arvanere, Alvan or Arvan. The letter L is translated to the R, like a Leo, Revont. Okay. So Alvan and Arvan is the same culture. So the Azeris, they pretend that they are Asian culture and race and so on. But wait a minute, the Turkic presence in Caucasus, it was only in the 13th century, where does Alan or Arvan come from? But again, whoever has oil, whoever has power, whoever has. So sadly, when the Russian-Persian War, it was there in 1827-28. There, the Russian presence was in Caucasus, starting in 1827-28. So this territory was taken from Persians and it was always a battlefield. Always a battlefield. Now, I'm not going to go through all this, but then the sad part was when in May 28 of 1918, when Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan were neighboring countries, they declared independence from Russia. So it took only 2 years that they were independent. On the 26th May, it was Georgia, Azerbaijan, and Armenia. 28th of May, they declared independence. But at the same time, the Karabakh or Artsakh was always what we call it independent oblast in Russian, which is the region that it was autonomous region who did not belong to anybody.
Right.
So they had their own council, they had their own Congress, so to say. But when the Red Army came, late 20, early 21, 2021, and we all know the Caucasus, the whole Caucasus was Soviet, part of Soviet. The sad part was, in 1923, Stalin forcefully gave this region to Azerbaijanis.
Okay.
Okay, so.
But we won that battle.
So from 1923 to 1988, Armenians were not happy to be under the yoke of Azerbaijanis.
Right.
In 1988, they wanted to be independent first, and then they asked the Soviet to be annexed with Armenia. Didn't work, and the Karabakh movement started, and they knew. No one knew that Soviet Union is going to fall apart. They knew that they're going to be end up either shot in the prison or they're going to be sent for a vacation to other part of Russia, especially in Siberia, where they have forced camps there. Just knowing that, they start the Karabakh movement in 1988. Sadly, we all know December 7, 1988, that was the devastating earthquake. It turned everything down, but the Azeris were very happy that we had an earthquake because we were busy with our problems in the country. They tried to get rid of Armenians from Azerbaijan. In Sumqayit and Baku, where they are like major cities next to Caspian Sea, and it's full of money. And whoever I meet, Russians, and I talk to them about Karabakh and about Azeris, and they say, you know what? Until 1988, the super rich people in Baku and Sumqayit were Armenians, and Azeris were working for them. And all our super rich people, Mantashov was the richest person in his time of the world, and he was Armenian, and he started with a cotton production, and then he smelled the oil in the Caspian Sea. He left the cotton production and he started the oil, and his friend was also Kalus Gulbenkian, who did the same thing in Iraq, or we call it Mesopotamia at that time. And also at that time was Nubar Pasha in Egypt. So imagine this. At the same time, and they were related to each other because Nubar Pasha was actually the godfather of Mantashov's son. And the three richest people, the person in the world were Armenians. And one of them, Mantashov, that he knew everything about the oil factories. So, 1988, the clashes started. Sumqayit, we call it genocide, they call it cleansing, ethical cleansing, racial cleansing, whatever. Time will tell us what's wrong. But this is what I will ask an Azerbaijani. If you want me to, I will tell them in a Turkish Jew. I would say 450,000 Armenians. Now they are only 4 or 5, and they are in hiding because they cannot be showing themselves as Armenians. Where are they? Just tell me. They are going to say because the ethnic cleansing started, they were refugees to Armenia. I understand. But what happened to rest of them?
To the rest.
So therefore, in 1992 to 1994, Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh, in Artsakh, said enough is enough. We are going to protect our families, our land from unwelcomed people. And we're going to declare independence. This is what they did. Of course, Azerbaijani, they don't like this idea, and they fought back. They had full scale of military, and these people, they had only man-made, handmade thing. I would say, sadly, religion played a big part in this. Azeris being Islam. And Armenians being Christian. So this was, they used the religion card to make people hate each other. In 1994, the Western world forced both sides to have a truce. But again, Armenians, they had their independence. They had their army, which until now we have. The capital of Artsakh is Stepanakert, named after me, of course. Stepanakert. Okay.
Got it.
So Shushi, and we had hundreds of people died, shed their blood for their independence. Of course, the whole idea, it was not welcomed by the Azeris, and every time they could, they tried to infiltrate. But now, this is the problem. Why now? Why now? Where both presidents were in Washington. In Washington. Aliyev was in Washington. Sarkisyan was in Washington. Of course, I would say this is one of the problems. Even though Obama, our president,
has not.
No. It was so odd when he said, "Oh, we love Turkey and we thank Turkey because Turkey is our strongest ally in fighting ISIS and so on." This is another chapter actually, that ISIS is a one puppet of Turkey. Turkey does not like to see Syria and Iraq strong, because once they are strong, a piece of land is going to be taken from them, because they are trying to put a Kurdistan. This is another part of the history that I don't want to go in there. But imagine this. He did not meet neither of them, neither Aliyev nor Sarkisyan. Okay. John Kerry, the State Department, and also Joe Biden met them and remind them that they have to abide by the Minsk. There is this group of Minsk. We call it Minsk. It is Russians, Americans, and French people, the government, helping us to settle this problem. But there is another factor that it played in it. The whole Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, now they started hating Aliyev. Aliyev is the president and his cabinet. Why? His two daughters, they have so much investment in Panama. The wife has so much investment in Virgin Island, in Russia, in Austria, in France. So people were saying, wait a minute, Aliyev family is the kingdom or dynasty of Aliyev, have everything, where we are suffering, we don't have daily bread. So slowly but surely they were disliking their leader. So in order for them to be disoriented,
driven the other way.
This is why he decided, because on April 1st, when I came back from the hall, I'm reading from my cousin who is there, and he says, no, the Azeris, tried to come in, 18 soldiers.
So these are the casualties right now.
18 soldiers. We have
as of today.
As of today, and yesterday, what they did, they bombed a bus of volunteers who were going from Armenia to Artsakh to serve, to help. What it made me very mad, because as you know, I am a social worker, and most vulnerable people in our society are elderly, disabled, and children. Guess what they did? In the first village they encountered, there were 3 people could not flee, run away. They said, we're old people, they're not going to do anything to us. Soldiers come in, kill them, 3 of them, 3 elderly, but that's not enough. They cut their ears as a souvenir. I mean, come on, we are in the 21st century, Louise. I'm not saying Armenians are saints, but what I'm saying
But
is
they don't deserve that.
this is why them. If they did for a soldier, I would understand. Soldier is killing a soldier. 3 innocent elderly people who were so disabled they could not flee. They said we were staying in our home. You're killing them and then dismantling. I mean, this is what it is. This is sadly what it is. Therefore, now everywhere from Armenia with buses are going to the front line. And my cousins are there, 2 of them. And I was a when I was in Armenia, I was a godfather to this kid. Now this kid is a soldier and he's serving, and he says, "Kavod, I'm going to make you proud."
May God bless our Armenian soldiers.
You know, it's why we don't need this. We don't.
What can we do as far as American Armenians here to get the word out? And what is the current situation as of today? Has there been a standoff?
Well, actually, there are always 2 sides of the stories. Azeris are telling us we put a truce and we stopped everything and we're not doing anything, but daily basis they are shooting each other. And see, you know what? I'm just saying this because I am an Armenian, no, but Armenia or Karabakh has the land, independence. They don't need to attack. It's on their disadvantage to attack Azeris. But Azeris need to attack to gain again the territory.
The ground.
So this is it. And the other day when I was watching CNN, it was so beautifully done. The same question was done. 1994 till now. Why Armenia wants to attack you? He couldn't answer, the foreign minister of Azerbaijan. Then she brought up Aliyev scandal. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know this information. And when they ask, okay, why is this happening? Because we like to punish. Is this an answer of a foreign minister? At least lie in front of camera. At least lie. You know, like say that we
don't know.
No, they started it and we paid them back. I understand, but then punish. I mean, is this a kindergarten or what? So what we can do, please. This is what I always say: education, education, education. Just go ahead, contact your Congress, contact your senators, educate them, send them something that, you know, too bad that in social media there are so many false information. Gather the right information from the right source and send it.
There is going to be a protest on April the 8th.
Yes.
At the Council General of Azerbaijan.
At 1 o'clock.
At 1 p.m. We hope that you all can be there. Write to your Congress, state officials, president. You know, we need to get our voice out there, and that's the only way. By educating our own Armenians, we all know what's happening. So we need to tell our neighbors, our friends, schools, and get them all involved. We ask you on April 8th to be there at 1 o'clock at the Council General of Azerbaijan to voice your anger.
Yes.
And again, let's pray that our Armenian soldiers will be back. No more casualties for civilians or military.
12-year-old child was, yesterday it was his funeral. 12. Does he really deserve that?
Thank you, Steve, for being on my show.
Thank you.
Peace on earth. Peace to Armenia. Like I said, Asvazbahe mev hai zinvor nevun.
Amen.
Shnagalutun. Thank you for watching Lights on LA. Have a very nice evening.